Welcome to Lunch with the Lord. I'm Pastor Mark. We are in 1 Peter chapter 2, and we are continuing in verse 18 this lesson. But before we begin, our theme verse for Lunch with the Lord, Jeremiah 15:16. Thy words were found, and I did eat them. And thy word was unto me the joy and the rejoicing of my heart. Now, he says here in verse 18, servants, be subject to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the froward. Now, last lesson we saw that servants, be subject to your masters with all fear was talking about, well, the Greek word was talking about a house servant in the house. Be subject to your master with all fear. But today, as we apply it, it means as we work in our job, wherever we are, we have an honor and a respect for those who are in a position of authority over us. We don't have to fear that person. God never tells us to fear any human being, okay? We fear God, but we don't fear men. And so we are subject to those who are above us, and we honor them, and we have a respect for them in that position. So this is what he's saying here. Servants, be subject to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle. And here he says good and gentle. And good here, the Greek word is agathos. And it means that which is intrinsically good. Good in character. You could say that this person is good to the core. So he's talking here, Peter is talking about a master or a boss or a foreman or someone in position over you who is intrinsically good. And they have a desire to be good to those who are underneath them in authority, okay? And you know, there are masters, there are foremans and bosses who are intrinsically good. They do care for those who work for them. They do take an interest in the person. Maybe you have a boss. Maybe you have someone over you at your job or whatever work that you do. And you like that person. They like you. And they're an understanding person. You can tell that they are intrinsically good and they want to do good towards the people who they serve in a position of authority over. And if you have a boss like that, that's great. They try to help you out and they try to encourage you and so that you don't get fired and try to steer you this way and that way because they care about you. And it's more than just, I'm your boss, you work here and, there are bosses and people like that in authority and they lord it over the people, that they are over. But there also are people who are good and they do watch out for you and that's good. So Peter here says, be subject to your masters, submit to them. And he says, not only to the good, those who are intrinsically good and gentle. Now, for the word gentle, the Greek word for gentle is EPIIKES. And EPIIKES is a Greek word that is one of the true gems in the Bible. You may say, I've read this passage before and it just means gentle. Oh, no. This Greek word EPIIKES it would be like you walking on a piece of land. Let's say you bought 10 acres of land and you're walking on your land and somebody who knows that land comes to you as you're just walking on your land and they look at you and they say, do you understand what you just bought? and you say to them, well, yeah, I bought this 10 acres of land. And this person says to you, oh, but do you understand that deep, deep, deep down underneath this land, there's a tremendous gold mine in there, a tremendous gold mine. And you say, whoa, what do I have here? What is this thing? Well, that's what EPIEIKES is. EPIEIKES is one of those true gems in the Bible that you just stumble upon. You just look upon it. You look at it and you say, oh, this is just 10 acres of land. I got to work the land and I got to take down here and I want to plant corn or whatever. Oh, you just see it on the surface. It's just gentle. Oh, no. This is a true gem of God in here. And he says, EPIEIKES. You know, this Greek word EPIEIKES is translated in the Bible by words like gentle, forbearance, and kindness in the New Testament. And you know, before the New Testament was written, this Greek word had a great history behind it. Aristotle wrote of EPIEIKES as that which is just and sometimes that which is better than justice. Okay? Trench says that it expresses, that this Greek word EPIEIKES expresses that moderation which recognizes the impossibility that cleaves to formal law. You may say, Pastor Mark, you're losing me here on these definitions of EPIEIKES. Well, we're getting to that. Epieikeia is that which corrects the law when the law is deficient because it is too general. Let me read that again. Epieikeia is that which corrects the law when the law is deficient because it's too general. All right? The law is too general. But EPIEikeia comes in and corrects the law. All right? The opposite of EPIEIKES, the opposite of an EPIEIKES person is an akripodikaios person. Akripodikaios person. Okay? Now, an akripodikaios person is one who stands up for every jot and tittle of the law. Every single detail of the law. That's what an akripodikaios person is. They stand up for every jot and tittle of the law. Oh! This is what the law says. You have to obey it right to the period. Right? Everything. If the law says this, then we have to judge you by every line of the law. But the EPIEIKES person knows that there will come times when doing something may be a legal right, yet it would be a moral wrong. Okay? The EPIEIKES person knows when not to use the law. They know that standing on the law would be a legal right, but it may be a Christian wrong. And this is why this Greek word is so precious. The reason this Greek word is so exciting is because it describes the very nature of God himself. If God stood on his rights, if he stood on every jot and tittle of his laws, then what hope would mankind have? Mankind would have no hope. If God judged every single human being upon the 10 Commandments and the laws that he gave, we have no hope. No hope. But God is EPIEIKES. God is the ultimate example of EPIEIKES, and he relates to people with EPIEIKES. There are times when, yes, as a boss or as a foreman, I have the right to take that law and use it against that person. And if I do, the law says they should be fired. Our business rule says, you did this, you should be fired. You did that, you should be fired. And if we stand on every jot, let me ask you this. If your company, the company where you work, stood on every jot and tittle of their law, would you still be working there? Maybe you would. Would the person next to you still be working there? Can any person, can any man or woman ever truly keep every single law, jot and tittle of your company's rules until the day they retire? Huh? If people were judged according to every single jot and tittle of their law, if the company truly stood upon their rules and regulations, how many would they would have? There would probably be a turnaround of people every so often, every year or 2 or 3 years. There would be a whole new group. Why? They'd have to fire them. And then 3 years later, they'd have to hire all new people. Why? Because these people were fired. Because they understand that people make mistakes. People do make bad decisions. They don't want to sometimes. They don't want to, but they do. And to stand upon every jot and tittle of the law means that there's no hope. There's no hope. In context, there are masters, there are bosses who are willing to bend the rules in order to give grace and mercy and to give a person a second chance. They look beyond the implementation of company rules and they see, what do they see? They see a human being with needs. They see a human being with a family or the need to be encouraged. So they waive the use of these rules and regulations in order to give them EPIEIKES, in order to give them grace and mercy. I know that what you did deserves that you have that you are suspended from work for a week without pay. But I'm not going to do it. I'm going to waive that because I see you as a person. I see your needs. I see the situation and how you fit in the situation. And maybe instead of giving a week, maybe they get 1 day without pay. Okay? Instead of firing them, instead of firing a person who did commit an offense to their company that deserves firing, maybe they get a week or 2 weeks off without pay. You know, there's a waiving of the rules. This is what EPIEIKES is. When you have the right to administer the law, you waive that right. Just like God did. Just like God did with us. God is the ultimate example of EPIEIKES, and he waives the right of the rules. Because if God stood upon the rules, no one has hope. We're all doomed for a lake of fire forever and ever. But God, through his grace and mercy, came and died for us on the cross. And he's the ultimate. God gives us grace and mercy here in this life. And he waives his rights. And he waives the company rules and regulations because he sees the person. He loves the person. And as a boss or as a foreman or as a president of a company, you see the person in the situation and you apply You apply the rules of the company. And sometimes you may need to bend those rules because of the person you're dealing. Sometimes you need to bend them or waive them altogether, or modify the rules because of this person or the situation they're in. Maybe they're a new employer. Maybe a new worker, or maybe they just had a hard time at the family. They lost their husband, they lost their wife, or maybe their husband or wife left them, or the child died and they made a bad decision in the company. And because of this suffering, this heartache, they made a bad decision in their company. And that company, because of their laws, they should be fired. But no, you waive it because you understand the stress that person's in, what's happening in their life. And you waive that. And that's showing EPIEIKES to that. That's the gem. That's the jewel that's in the ground that you see. And you see here, it says here, he says here, not only to the good and the gentle. It's not just gentle. It's someone who's seeing a person for who they are. And you're applying the rules of the company according to the situation of this person. It's more than just being gentle. It's being beyond gentleness. It's being showing them God's grace and God's mercy in a time when they deserve law, when they deserve punishment. You don't give it because you see them. You see the person for who they are, and you understand the circumstance, and you give them grace and mercy. All right? Until next lesson, walk with the Lord. I know He walks with you.